I was saying, y'all, but Rico from RicoScores, and we do not have a training camp practice today, but we still have a lot going on. So you can consider this a Rico report because we're kind of going to bounce around everywhere. First of all, the Washington Commanders basically re-signed wide receiver Byron Pringle from the previous roster of last year. Is this a bad sign for the receiver group or the special teams group? The fact that they felt the need to bring this guy in after 6 practices. Also, we have a new field tunnel club for $15K, something really unique to... I mean, I've never seen the Commanders do anything like this before. I'm not sure what other NFL teams are doing it, but make sure you stick around for that. And we got to laugh at the Photoshop job that they did in those example pictures that they rendered up. And then we also have KD sending a really cool message to Jayden Daniels. And we have a lot more other things to talk about as well. We're going to do like a little checkup on all of the different former Commanders around the NFL, like where they've recently signed, how they've been doing so far since they've been gone, like even including Sam Howell and Montez Sweat. So before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content, man. I really appreciate y'all for staying tuned. Even when we don't have a practice, I told y'all we have so much content to work on. I have so many other videos I can't wait to get to y'all, including a projection of what our starting offense looks like right now. Just a few days ago, 3 days ago, we did the starting defense as of that day. Now I'm working on a starting offense as of this day as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. May come out with that tomorrow, tonight, whatever. Stay tuned. So I have a lot more content on the way. Even when we have days off from practice, I'm still hitting y'all with videos. And without further ado, man, let's go and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so the first time I saw it was when Ian Rappaport tweeted, the Commanders have re-signed veteran wide receiver Byron Pringle per his agents Cats Bros Sports on Twitter. He was with them last year, and then the Bears and the Chiefs before that. Remember, he was one of the guys that Eric Bieniemy brought with him from the Chiefs to the Commanders. And you know, Byron Pringle actually contributed quite a bit. Maybe not as much as people hope, but this wasn't just like a waste of a roster spot type of guy, because Pringle was used mostly on special teams last season. He played 41% of the snaps there, but he only started 1 game at wide receiver. Even though he was active in all 17 games, he was always available, and he always played, but he was never technically like a starter. But he did start 1 random game, and then he ended up finishing the season with 14 receptions for 161 yards in a very limited role on offense, but that's still pretty efficient. 161 yards on 14 receptions is not half bad at all. So maybe we need to tap further into that as well. But of course, with this receiver room right now, we already know the top 3: Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Luke McCaffrey. Those are your 3 top guys for sure. Roster locks, whatever. But once you get past those guys, that's when things get a little interesting, because who's really ready to step up? Shouts out to Hogs Haven for providing this article. Scott Jennings of Hogs Haven for saying the Washington Commanders had 13 wide receivers on roster before Byron Pringle just got signed. So now we're up to 14. The team hasn't made the deal official, and they will have to make a corresponding roster move. I want to point that out, because with you adding a player to your roster, you know, we have a limited 90-man roster right now, 91 because we have the international pathway player. But either way, you add a player, you got to release a player so that you can meet the requirements of the limited amount of roster spots you can have. So I'm curious as to who they're going to release. I would assume it's more than likely going to be another receiver. Why would you add a receiver and then cut somebody else from some other position group? But who knows? We'll see. I'm going to definitely keep y'all updated on that. If we don't find out until we get to practice tomorrow, I will let y'all know in my training camp breakdown of what happened in practice, who got cut so we can bring Byron Pringle onto the team. Continuing with Scott Jennings' article in Hogs Haven, there haven't been any reports of injuries at the wide receiver position, which is a great point. This is not like somebody got hurt and we're bringing somebody in, at least that we know of right now. So what's going on? So far through 6 practices, we haven't had any severe injuries. I mean, we had a practice and a half where Andrew Wiley kind of sat on the sideline a little bit but still went through drills. Benjamin St. Juste did individual drills last practice yesterday and then didn't participate with the team, and that's about it. So first of all, no major injuries in general, let alone in the receiver group alone. And then continuing with the article, so Washington could just be churning the bottom of the roster and adding a veteran with special teams experience. It could be very simple. Again, looking at the wide receiver position outside of the top 3 guys of Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Luke McCaffrey, we can run down the list. You have De'Ami Brown. He's your best blocking wide receiver, arguably. He's been making plays recently in practice, especially yesterday, and I talked about that in my training camp breakdown. Make sure you go check that out if you haven't already. And then he also has some deep ball ability to him, as you saw in flashes with Carson Wentz and guys like that. Then you have Olamide Zaccheaus. I've been hearing left and right about how impressive he's been, going all the way back to voluntary OTAs. And so far in training camp, he's been making plays as well, catching touchdowns from Jayden Daniels and all kinds of things. Mitchell Tinsley, I heard, had a couple of good days. Dax Milne, I heard, had a good day yesterday or the day before that. Jamison Crowder has made a couple of plays, and remember, he was your starting punt returner last year, so maybe he has the lead on that spot right now. But then again, this whole new regime came in, clean house, and everybody has to start over and earn their keep, so I don't feel like Jamison Crowder has any lead over anybody for anything right now. Then you have Bryson Tremaine. Again, he's your only tall receiver. I want to keep emphasizing that every time I talk about him, because Luke McCaffrey is your tallest receiver outside of Bryson Tremaine. He's 6'2". Everybody else is 6'1" and shorter. Then you have Bryson Tremaine, 6'5". Outside of your tight end room, Bryson Tremaine is by far your tallest receiver. And then on top of that, he's been sticking out and making really good catches. I mean, he made a catch yesterday where the whole, half the offense came onto the field to celebrate because the catch was that great. And he had everybody hype about it and things like that. So this is a guy that's starting to stand out. He's trying to make the team. Then you have Damiere Byrd, another guy that's been making plays apparently, but he's also back there contributing in kickoff return drills and things like that. So he's in that competition. Then you have Davion Davis, where if you look at our lads and some other people who provide depth charts, he's at the bottom. But this is a guy that you could argue has been making the most plays out of anybody outside of the top 3 guys who are roster locks. I've heard Davion Davis's name come up so often this training camp, and he's even been gaining chemistry specifically with Jayden Daniels, catching touchdowns from him over and over again. This is a guy that's been standing out, so maybe he finds a way onto this roster. Who knows? And then, of course, you have my Georgia dog, Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. I haven't heard anything from him except for when he was making amazing plays in rookie mini camps before he got hurt, and Dan Quinn seemed to be taking a liking to him, but since then I haven't heard anything from him. And then you have Kazmir Allen, who as of right now is standing out big time on special teams. Again, Dan Quinn specifically said that Mike Sanverstill and Kazmir Allen are the 2 guys that stood out the most once we put the pads on when we got the special teams. He only named 5 players out of the entire team that really stood out once we put the pads on. John Bates on offense, specifically blocking wise especially. Then Jonathan Allen, Dorrance Armstrong on defense, and then special teams, Kazmir Allen and Mike Sanverstill. One of 5 players that Dan Quinn pointed out standing out the most out of the entire team of 91 guys on it. So Kazmir Allen seems like a guy that if you're rooting for him to make this team, his stock is rising. He may have a good chance of making that for, if anything, at least special teams wise, but then he's also been making plays on special teams. So I'm not sure if they see it as a weakness in the receiver room. It may more so be a weakness special teams wise, because again, Byron Pringle contributed way more on special teams than anywhere else for us last year. But again, Dan Quinn just 2 days ago emphasized how Kazmir Allen and Mike Sanverstill have stood out on kick returns, and that's really all you really need there. I mean, you only really need 2 guys to step up, but maybe they've been noticing how great Sanverstill already looks as your starting slot corner, and maybe they just don't want to put him out there in harm's way unnecessarily as a returner. Because remember, as a defender, you attack people. As a returner, people attack you. It's a whole nother level of risk of injury in situations like that. So maybe bringing in Byron Pringle means 2 things. One, Mike Sanverstill is one of our best 2 returners so far in training camp, according to Dan Quinn, has been so good on defense that they feel like it isn't even worth it to put him out there on returns, even though he's one of our best guys at it. And then also 2, Byron Pringle is being brought in because the guys other than Kazmir Allen and Mike Sanverstill have not looked as good as they hoped. And again, with Mike potentially being too valuable on defense to even play him at special teams, maybe they technically look at it as we have a hole as far as another kick returner. We have Kazmir Allen as one of them. Who's going to be the other one, with Mike Sanverstill having to be way too valuable on defense to go out there and do kick returns? So now, remember, Byron Pringle can return kicks. So to me, I feel like this is more of a returner signing than necessarily a receiver. But we'll see how this goes. Shouts out to JP Finley for doing this survey on Twitter, because he asked, what is up with the Byron Pringle signing on Twitter, and he included 3 options: more wide receiver competition, injury popped up, or other. And out of 741 votes, 61% said more wide receiver competition. 22 people said injury possibly popped up, because again, we haven't heard anything yet, but that's just a guess. And then 16% said other. I voted other because I feel like it's more of like a special teams thing than like an actual wide receiver. We need somebody to go out there and catch passes from Jayden Daniels on Sundays type of situation. I think this is definitely, in my opinion, I'm feeling very strongly that this was a returner signing over a receiver signing. But you never know. Again, 14 catches resulting in 161 yards is not something to just ignore. So maybe he can contribute a little bit more in the receiver room than we thought. But again, we've been hearing so many great things about so many different receivers in this receiver group right now. It was one of my biggest concerns going into training camp, but so far from what I'm hearing, I'm not as worried about the wide receiver depth. So again, to me, has to be a special team situation. Now moving on to the next part of this Rico report. Apparently the new Commanders Field Tunnel Club game day experience is on the way. Yes, you heard it here first. The Commanders Field Tunnel Club. It's literally exactly what it sounds like. According to Chris Bryant at Hog Farmer Chris, he was able to announce this, and shouts out to him, one of our best fans in the fan base. An intimate space giving fans unique access to high-five players as they enter and exit the locker room and head onto the field on game day. And it costs starting at $15,000 per person. And this is a really unique experience, as you can see on the screen right now. I mean, they will literally be right there as the players are coming out to be able to celebrate with them, hype them up and things like that, high fives, all of that type of stuff. And I think that's pretty cool. They specifically said that game day benefits includes access to a premium bar with food, beer, wine, and cocktails, pre-game field access, VIP parking in Black A reserved lot, exclusive stadium entry, Tunnel Club merchandise. And then season-long benefits includes events with Commanders business and football executives, 1 autographed jersey, and 1 all-exclusive away game trip. So that's all you're getting with the $15,000 that you're paying. It's not just only that access to the players as they're coming out and leaving the field. And JP Finley brings up a good point, because $15,000 does sound like a lot to most people, but to the people that they're marketing to this for, it's absolutely nothing. This is just chump change to them. So it makes sense. This is not for all of us, but if you're somebody that just happens to have that much money unnecessarily and want to do that, there you go. But I really want to go back and look at these pictures and really break down how awful this Photoshop is when you're looking at this rendering. Like, first of all, man, like in this picture, look at Terry McLaurin and Jonathan Allen. You got Samuel Cosme on the right. You got Deron Payne on the left. I don't know what they did to create this rendering or whatever, but they look crazy. Even worse, look at this. Look how they did Terry McLaurin in a different picture with him to the left next to the fans. I don't know if y'all noticed this the first time I was scrolling through the pictures for you, but now we're zoomed in. Look how bad they did our boy Terry McLaurin in this edit right here. Now, I'm not gonna lie though, the space does look really nice. It's really cool, but these Photoshop renderings, it has absolutely nothing to do with the actual experience that you're gonna get on like when you actually go to the games and it's happening. But for right now, looking at the rendering, it looks a little crazy. Shouts out to Nikki Javala of the Washington Post for writing an article on the situation. Just real quick, we're going to sprint through it. She said the Washington Commanders will unveil an array of upgrades to the stadium in Landover this season, including a premium space that will let fans interact with players on game days. The aptly named Tunnel Club, and a 2,100 square foot space in the tunnel of the stadium, will give 150 season ticket holders access to an area where players travel to and from the field and locker room. Membership includes exclusive stadium entry, parking, field access before the game, and all-inclusive food and beverage. It better with $15,000. It also comes with admission to select events with team executives and a 1 all-inclusive away game trip, among other perks. The team worked with the architectural design firm Populous, I hope that's how you pronounce that, on the concept of the club, and turned to Clark Construction for the build out, which is teased in the renderings that you already saw. The chance to high-five Terry McLaurin pregame doesn't come cheap. Again, it is $15,000 and includes 2 passes to the Tunnel Club. Washington's ownership group, led by Josh Harris, has put more than $75 million into the stadium since it was purchased by the team in July 2023. The group began to make incremental improvements before its inaugural season and has continued to make alterations ahead of year 2. Its goal: create a more attractive game day experience in Landover while continuing to search for a new stadium location in DC, Maryland, or Virginia. So even though the ultimate goal is to move the stadium somewhere else, to build a new stadium and all of that, they're not going to neglect the fans and the players in the meantime until we get to that new stadium. Josh Harris said, quote, "We're going to improve the existing stadium as much as we can while we look for a new home, because it's not the bones necessarily. The bones obviously can be repaired, they can be fixed. It's more the way modern stadiums are set up. They're very different than stadiums that are older. And so whether it's premium areas being really close to the game itself, how the suites are situated, how much premium there is, the Wi-Fi, I mean, a lot of that stuff just can't be done in an older stadium. So we're going to look at ultimately how we can do that with a new stadium," unquote. And that's a good point. A lot of the features that we want in this stadium that we have right now, you just literally can't do. That even just the skeleton of it is what he's saying. There's not much you can really go do about it. So with the new stadium, we'll have a lot of the things that fans have been wanting in our current stadium. But this one, they're basically going to do everything that they can do now and then expect even more and way better upgrades with the next one. Like, they can't just stop everything they're doing and add a collapsible dome like how I have down here in Atlanta with the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You can't even do that to what used to be known as FedEx Field. Now it's just Commanders Field because we don't have a sponsor. That's another thing they got to address. Continuing with the article, the team announced most of the changes in February, including the 1932 Club, a 22,000 square foot premium space for season ticket holders. It includes 28 private suites for up to 12 people apiece. All are sold out, of course, and 108 theater box seats. Like the Tunnel Club, membership to the 1932 Club comes with catering and access to select membership events, and the 1932 is the year the franchise was established, just to let you know. In 2022, under the ownership of Dan Snyder, the team added terrace tables to the club level for season ticket holders. The private seating located in the east and west end zones includes a half moon table, mesh seating, complimentary beer, cocktails, and in certain areas, complimentary food service as well. This offseason, the team added 72 more terrace tables. And then Washington also added touchless security at all of the stadium's entry gates, upgraded the sound system and lighting, added touchless food and beverage markers on the main concourse, resurfaced parking lots, and updated furnishings and carpet to the club level. Again, they're doing everything that they can with what they have to work with at our current stadium. So you just got to be patient and wait for a lot of the other great potential amenities and upgrades until the next stadium, because they just literally can't do everything they want to in this one. To help with the upfront costs, NFL owners approved $86.5 million in funding for the Commanders for stadium improvements, which would amount to a loan from the visiting team's shares of ticket revenue. That's pretty interesting. Still on the to-do list for the Commanders is finding a naming rights partner. The shipping giant of FedEx severed its agreement with the team 2 years early, sapping the Commanders of roughly $15 million in remaining revenue from the deal. And then Josh Harris and those guys were pretty much blindsided from that. They weren't really expecting that to happen when it happened, or at least, of course they knew before we knew as fans, but it was definitely something they weren't necessarily expecting. So again, they need a new sponsor. Now moving on to the next part of this video. Apparently the top rookies were introduced to the fans and their new cities. Like for Caleb Williams, that Ashton Kutcher reach out to him. For Jayden Daniels, that Kevin Durant reach out for him. Drake May had Mark Wahlberg, etc., etc. It's a whole 4-minute and 8-second clip if you want to go check that out. Shouts out to Fanatics and Michael Rubin for that. But all we care about is the Jayden Daniels one. So Kevin Durant, while talking to Jayden Daniels, there was also a really hyped fan talking to Jayden Daniels, like excited and can't wait to see him on the field. That was great. You literally have Jayden Daniels like on a couch, man. I'm assuming maybe this is the couch that he in his actual home or whatever. I don't know if this is like a whole set just to record this video, or if this is actually him at his house. Either way, he's sitting on a couch looking at a TV. You have the fan really hyped, but you also have Kevin Durant. He specifically said, "Congrats, man. Welcome to the team. Welcome to DC. Get you some mumbo sauce, put it on some chicken, some rice, everything. You good," unquote. And remember, KD just went on the K Adams show, Up and Adam, and said that Jayden Daniels is basically the KD of football, and basically compared him to himself. So KD clearly really likes Jayden Daniels. He was a great person to get to introduce Jayden Daniels to the city, just like how they did with a lot of the other top rookies around the NFL in that video. And then also, shouts out to Scott Abraham because he talked to David Aldridge at the Commanders training camp, and he asked about Jayden Daniels. David Aldridge said, quote, "All I want to see is once or twice a game. Show me why they picked you second overall. I think most people in this town will be like, I'll live with the record, unquote. And that's a good point. So basically he's saying Jayden Daniels just looks special. Show us every week why we invested in you with that second overall pick, why you should be the franchise quarterback. And even if we don't necessarily go out there and win as many games as we want, we don't make the playoffs, as long as you give us hope from within yourself and what you do, that's good enough for a lot of the fan base. Maybe not all of it, but a lot of it. Now, before we move on to what a lot of former Commanders are doing around the NFL right now, speaking of fan bases and being fans of their quarterbacks right now, the Cowboys are kind of going out bad. So if you look on the screen right now, this is what the Cowboys practice looked like during training camp. Like, I mean, completely empty. You could just tell that fans are sick of it. Mike Leslie is the one that tweeted this picture. He said Cowboys fans are out on this franchise more than I can ever remember. He is I believe he's a Cowboys reporter, media beat writer, whatever. The attendance so far at camp is way down. And again, as you're seeing in this picture, this is crazy. And I also want to compare it to the Commanders. Shouts out to Josh Taylor. If you look on the screen right now, he provided this picture. This is what our training camp looks like. And we don't even have shade anymore like we had last year, where they had like the thing over the bleachers, the shade you and things like that. These people are out there in the hot sun and still going out there and fanning for the team, man. Shouts out to everybody that's been going to the training camp practices. I mean, it's to the point they literally had to limit the tickets. There's a limited amount of tickets that can go to these practices. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, boy, they can't give away the tickets right now. You got to pay them to come to practice and basically simulate fandom at this point. I mean, hey, I'm pretty sure there's some few people out there that are willing to be hired for that. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, we have some former Commanders around the NFL. Some interesting news, like Nick Gates is now signing with the Eagles. Remember, he played 13 games for us last year, starting 10 of them, and was pretty much terrible. I don't know why the Eagles picked him up, but whatever. And if you remember Fabian Moreau, he's signing with the Vikings right now. Most recently, he played 16 games with the Broncos last year and had 11 starts, had 1 interception, 7 passes defensed. And remember, he was a 3rd round pick that we took a while ago. Then you also have Bobby McCain. He's signing with the Vikings too. So you have Fabian Moreau going to the Vikings and Bobby McCain going to the Vikings. He was just most recently with the Giants, I believe. And of course, he came from the Dolphins as well. He came from us. And he's reuniting with Brian Flores. So that actually makes a lot of sense. And then you have this picture of Sam Howell that was going viral. And I don't know what's going on with him. Not even just the way he looks, like he does look a little different there. Like, I don't know what happened. But also, we're hearing a lot of reports that he's not looking good. Somebody out there, I forgot who it was, but it was like a Seahawks reporter. I remember seeing this like a few days ago, tweeted that basically the QB competition between Sam Howell and Geno Smith is non-existent at this point. Like, Sam Howell is closer to competing with the 3rd string quarterback than he is Geno Smith with the 1st string. There's a bigger chasm between Geno Smith and Sam Howell than it is between Sam Howell and the 3rd string guy. I don't even remember who it was, but either way, Sam Howell is not living up to the hype that we hoped, well, at least that the Seahawks hoped as of right now. Shouts out to Adam Peters for even getting what he got from him in that trade, because I mean, that worked out for us big time in the draft. So shouts out to that. Man, Adam Peters, man, big finesse there. I'm really happy. I'm still rooting for Sam Howell to be great because I think he has the talent, but so far it's not looking good at all. Jayden Daniels is outperforming him so far in training camp immensely. It's not even close. And then also, before we get up out of here, Courtney Cronin of Chicago tweeted that Matt Eberflus said that he had to throw Montez Sweat out of the 2-minute drill after he made contact with Caleb Williams' arm. Quote, he's good enough to stop and move away. He has to be disciplined, unquote. So basically, Montez Sweat got kicked out of practice at some point early on in training camp just a few days ago. So, you know, just a quick little where our former Commanders are right now, what they're up to, where they're signing to, how, if they're doing well or not, even though I'm quite sure Montez Sweat is going to play very well for the Bears, as we saw last season. Just wanted to give y'all that update. But yeah, man, that's the end of the video. Please stiff arm that like button. Do not leave this video out leaving a like. Make sure you stiff arm that subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, even when we have days off from training camp practice, I got y'all with some sort of an update. I have a lot of different video ideas. Again, I want to work on my basically what the offense looks like right now. If we had to play a game today, what is the starting offense? Who's our starting left tackle? Who's our starting left guard? Who's our starting right tackle? Who are the starting receivers? Who's the starting tight end? And also, interestingly enough, who's the starting running back? If we had to pick between the two, who's so far having the best camp between Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson? I have that answer as well. I'm working on that. And then also, of course, a lot of people are interested in who the starting quarterback is, but everybody should already know who that is and who's been performing the best so far. And so that's a video I'm working on. So just stay tuned for a lot of the videos I have coming out, even when we don't have training camp practice. But of course, when we do, I got y'all with the full-blown hour-long updates going position group by position group and showing you the clips from the practices as well. So make sure y'all stay tuned for all of that. Again, do not leave this video without leaving a like. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video. The signing of Byron Pringle, what does it mean? Is this a bad sign for us, or is this just simply adding more depth to the receiver room and or the special teams room? Let me know how you feel about that $15K exclusive experience that the Commanders are selling and the different upgrades that they plan on releasing to us. Let me know how you feel about how out bad the Cowboys are right now. Let me know how you feel about KD's message to Jayden Daniels and about all of the other former Commanders players and what they're doing and what they're up to right now around the NFL. Let me know all of that in the comment section. I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. I really appreciate y'all. Catch y'all later. I'm out.